Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending our annual Utah Sustainable Business Network's annual legislative update. Just before we get started, I want to say hello. My name is Tracy Harden, and I am one of the board members with the network. And a little bit of word about what Utah Sustainable Business Network is. We are a group that's comprised of over 300 businesses and sustainability professionals, as well as our community partners that are working to advance sustainable business practices in our state. If you are interested in joining us, membership is free. You can just go to our website and sign up, and we have a variety of events and webinars throughout the year that you can connect with other sustainability professionals. So we welcome you. Today we have with us Josh Kraft, who's the Director of Environmental Relations and Public Affairs with Utah Clean Energy. Exciting news that Utah Clean Energy is starting their 25th year of supporting clean energy in Utah. They have a staff of 14 people, and Josh has been with Utah Clean Energy for 9 years now. Congratulations, Josh.
Thanks, Tracy.
And then Tom Moyer's with us. Tom is head of climateutah.org. And I know Tom well because he's also our state leader for Citizens Climate Lobby. So whereas Citizens Climate Lobby focuses on national lobbying as a bipartisan and completely almost volunteer group of citizens across the U.S. Advocating for climate change and legislation at the national level, Climate Utah focuses on the state level. So Tom, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, to begin with, we're going to tell you what we're going to go through. So Josh is going to give us an overview of Utah Clean Energy's focus for 2026, and then we're going to jump into the actual legislation that we're going to watch for 2026. We're going to go through energy efficiency, new electricity sources, resources, solar plant, geothermal, and then we're going to turn it over to Tom, who's going to lead us through some of our clean air legislation and water consumption legislation for this session. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Josh.
Thanks, Tracy. And thank you all for the chance to present and to discuss what's to come this year with the Utah Sustainable Business Network. I'll say that this is my 10th legislative session since I've started, and I will say without a doubt that the legislative session is messy, it is chaotic, it is also a really important exercise in citizenship, and let our legislators greatly benefit and need the input that you all have and the expertise that you all have and the companies that you have, and so do we. And so I'll just say, like, the work that you all will do, and particularly the efforts to connect on topics like clean energy, clean air, water, sustainability, disclosure, with your individual legislators and your individual state reps, even if it seems slow, is really important and almost always pays off in the long run. So thank you for that. So Utah Clean Energy, my focus for my slides is going to be on the energy landscape specifically, and that's our focus here. It's in the areas of the electricity that powers our homes and businesses, the way that we do buildings, how we make our buildings and built environment energy efficient, and how we power our homes and businesses how we power our vehicles, particularly electric vehicles. So going into this legislative session, the high level, we are strategic about looking for opportunities to advance clean energy, our growing clean energy economy, and also to reduce emissions, to help with air quality, and to reduce the risk of climate change. So what does that look like for the session? I want to say is, in particular, we look for opportunities to harness our solar geothermal energy storage and build out our transmission system to make that a central part of Governor Cox's Operation Gigawatt operation to expand energy production in the state. We are looking to advance energy efficiency for customers through inclusive financing strategies, and I'm going to talk a little bit about a bill we're working on there. We're going to look to help we are trying to modernize our electricity grid, which is the key to meeting our energy needs in a way that is clean and making sure that we get the power that we need in a rapidly changing climate, by making our transmission system harder and more resilient, and also through faster adoption of customer-sided energy resources, whether that be solar or storage or other efforts where we're meeting more of our needs on site. And then finally, to my sort of point at the beginning, we really think it's super important to bring expertise on all sorts of major energy bills that are before the legislature, even if it's not a bill that we have prioritized. That's how we get good public policy and better public policy. We work with and so that includes folks like you. It includes the members of a coalition we host called the Clean Energy Business Coalition, and in just everyday citizens. I think about last year in particular, there's going to continue to be discussions about energy use from data centers and large new loads, and the legislature, frankly, needs our help, needs our expertise to meet that. So that's going to be what we're looking at high level for the coming year. Next slide, Tracy. Sweet. I'll just say at the highest level, energy, I think, is going to play a really important role in this session, although it's probably the way I'm thinking about it and hearing about it is not going to be quite as busy as it was last year, and that's a good thing. We saw quite a few bills that were at the beginning of the session that were problematic particularly for solar, utility scale solar, which is a super important resource to meeting our needs quickly, affordably, and cleanly. And that I think we've got to a better place by the end of the session, but it was quite a fight. And I think that I'll just say that I think that both Governor Cox and the legislative leadership understands just how important energy development, both the resources and the grid, are super important to our future. But I'm hoping that we slow down and continue to sort of think through that. I would give a compliment to Governor Cox and his team for continuing to ramp up the Operation Gigawatt, which is their premier energy initiative to double energy production within the next 10 years. We do not, and to expand the expertise and the staff at our state energy office, which is the Office of Energy Development. Their new director is Emmy Lasovsky, but they've been really ramping up their team, which shrank a lot and has grown. And so as we're doing planning, the more expertise we have there, the more conversations they're hosting with stakeholders is going to be much better and much more informed for our future. And I'm going to compliment them on that. Even though we're going to disagree on some major policy issues, it's good to have that expertise. I think everyone has probably seen that nuclear energy and nuclear safety are going to be something that the legislature does prioritize this year. And we at Utah Clean Energy are not focused on developing or on the licensing or initial process for new nuclear reactors. Our effort is going to continue to be to try to prioritize what we see as shorter run, more affordable, more near-term affordable resources, and to make sure we're not putting too many eggs in the nuclear basket as we're planning out our energy future, given some of the cost challenges. That said, we're going to see a lot of that this session. The State Department of Environmental Quality is interested in playing a bigger role in licensing new reactors. And we certainly think that nuclear will play some part of our future electricity, not only across the nation, but here in Utah. And then finally, color in the background is the uncertainty around Rocky Mountain Power and PacifiCorp, which is the parent company of our major electricity provider. is continuing to experience financial challenges as a result of wildfire liability from a few years ago. Um, and I think is sort of navigating a new environment, but is creating frustration because they're not necessarily planning to invest in the way that we would like them to and need them to meet both our economic needs and our environmental needs. And so that's something that's I think in the background, very diverse group of stakeholders sort of scrutinizing that. We certainly want a utility that is whole and doing well, but it's certainly in the background here. And that's particularly true in an environment where electricity prices are going up here and then across the nation. And I think we'll continue to be in the background. Next slide.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the bills. Go ahead.
Just wanted to interject here. I failed to mention at the beginning, we will have a Q&A period. Feel free to put your questions in chat, and Alyssa's monitoring them, and we'll address them at the end, or if there's something pressing in the middle, we'll certainly divert to it.
Thanks, Tracy. Okay, the first bill, we were working energy efficiency in our buildings continues to be it's our most important resource, and it's our most important resource, particularly at a time when we're seeing electricity prices go up. There are countless opportunities for us to improve the efficiency of our existing buildings. However, I think most of us know that there are upfront costs to investing in energy efficiency measures, whether that's insulation or air sealing to something potentially more costly, like an HVAC equipment upgrade, moving to a heat pump, or even adding an energy storage system. This is particularly true for lower income and moderate income customers and businesses. So our team has been looking at ways we can overcome those upfront cost barriers. And one important strategy that we've seen is to allow for on-bill repayment on your electricity bill of energy efficiency improvements. That is to say that you work with your utility or a third-party capital provider to pay for measures, a cost-effective efficiency measure, and then pay the cost of that measure down over time on your electricity or your monthly electricity or gas bill. A number of states are working and have tried this. The most notable ones I want to call out today are both large utilities in Missouri, Kansas, and also Illinois are working with their customers in this way. And it's important to note that many of you may be familiar with the WattSmart and ThermWise energy efficiency programs. They are great. This is not in lieu of that. This would be something to help further leverage that and allow customers you and me to go further and voluntarily do more energy efficiency measures. For the time being, we've had some good discussions with both Rocky Mountain Power and Enbridge, our gas provider. And our approach this year is we're working with Representative Clint Okerlund, who's a Republican here in Salt Lake County, to ask them to create a plan and a study for how they might implement an on-bill repayment program, knowing that would take a few years to set this in motion, but want to give customers the chance to invest more in energy efficiency in a way that makes sense for their pocketbooks and align those savings. There isn't a number yet for this bill. We're still working on getting the drafting done, but look out for that shortly. And I want to give a shout out to my colleagues at Stewardship Utah, who have done a lot of work to connect us and to keep this moving. Next slide. Okay, it wouldn't be working at Utah Clean Energy if we didn't have something really super wonky and complex for you. So that's wanted to say that we are as we've seen across the country, a spike in electricity demand, and also driven in part by the electrification, which is really good, of heating and cooling systems and vehicles, and then also interest in new manufacturing and data centers. We're seeing that and I'm pointing kind of crudely high, but we're seeing load growth across the country in a way that we haven't in a few decades. And so one constraint that to meeting that has been the process of interconnecting new utility scale resources to the transmission system of our utilities. That is a complicated process and the way that utilities across the country do this is understandable, but it's not necessarily suited for the process we need today. We have a lot of new resources, particularly renewables, that are kind of waiting in a queue to be connected. So we have been in conversation with a national partner, the Pew Charitable Trust, about using what's called surplus interconnection to expedite the connecting of new energy storage and generation resources to existing generation sites who already have an interconnection agreement with the utility. That means so if you have let's say there's a power plant that is a gas plant and it is currently connected, but that site has some additional capacity as part of its transmission agreement, its interconnection agreement with the utility. And so there's an opportunity to explore adding new storage or generation to that existing site in cooperation with the utility. And then you get to reduce the need, you are not necessarily need a whole new interconnection process for a new resource. I'll note that this is Rocky Mountain Power and PacifiCorp are already makes use of surplus interconnection. And so this is not an attempt to change current practice. It's an attempt to expedite and make better use of that and squeeze more out of the transmission system that we have, knowing that we're going to need to build some more transmission. That's just a necessity. Representative Christine Watkins, I think, is working on this bill and it's moving its way through. I think it should be nonpartisan, good, but a good move in the right direction of adding new resources that we need. Next slide.
Did it not advance, Josh?
It hasn't moved.
It's moved on my screen.
You got it. One more. There we go. I'll be quick with the next few bills, but to note that last year we had a Representative Colin Jack, who was the chair of the House Public Utilities and Energy Committee. They're the most important committee, most sessions on topics of energy and our utilities. Ran a bill that was highly problematic, would have really been blocked a lot of utility scale solar development within the state. And I won't rehash that whole discussion. I'll say that he's refiled a version of this bill that was included a lot of amendments after I think a pretty good discussion with solar developers and private landowners who want to develop this resource and make good use of it. So the bill, HB 16, would basically would do two things. It would restrict the use of state tax credits for utility scale solar on certain prime agricultural and farmland, although there are some exemptions that allow that to continue under certain circumstances. And then it would codify general use practices around bonding and decommission for solar facilities sort of at the end of their life, not as a new state requirement, but something that they would go through usually with counties, a local jurisdiction. So we're likely okay on this bill. It was certainly a topic of big discussion and concern last year, and one we're going to be watching. We are going to watch it as it moves into committee this year. Next slide. A little closer to home, but still on solar, Representative Ray Ward, who is a champion Republican from Bountiful. Representative Ward did really kind of amazing and heroic work last year on legalizing balcony solar, meaning small solar customer solar arrangements under 1,200 megawatts that you could connect to into an outdoor plug or a dedicated plug at your house without needing an interconnection agreement with our utility, which has been exciting and is something that our team is investing in, given it's not a huge resource, but it's one that's flexible and would add up. And I'm proud to say I have been fortunate enough to have been able to use a balcony solar system in my house. And I'll hope to share the results of that with you. December is not a great generating month, so I'm still piecing it together, but it's been exciting. He's going to take another step at trying to accelerate, reduce time for permitting and permitting costs for residential solar installations and other types of home remodeling, which is an important step because permitting and interconnection can add time and cost to any of you all who want to add a solar system on your house. And I still think he's working on the exact text of the bill, but the approach would allow for well, effectively require municipalities and local jurisdictions to allow for third-party inspectors to certify, get your papers in for a solar or certain types of remodeling, and it would also allow for virtual or inspections to happen. There's a number of apps, including the solar app, that can allow you to do look at a potential solar installation virtually, to do the permitting that way rather than having someone to come on site and physically inspect your system before granting your permit. So that's where this bill heads. Tom, I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you have anything you wanted to add here? Details I'm missing?
No, just that this has been done in other states, both
Yeah,
red and blue states. So it seems like a good a good topic for a small government leaning state to take on.
yeah. I
Josh,
think
any idea, like, how many weeks does it take to get the solar inspection done now?
I think it depends on the jurisdiction. I think that, and the I would say that the reality is that cost and financing because is the most important barrier to doing solar. But it usually, I mean, it takes more than a few, often takes more than a few weeks to get your inspection, your permit going. And the slower we can get that while still making sure that those arrangements are correct is a good thing. And so that's true, Tracy. I don't have an exact number. I think it varies.
And does it go through your local building department?
Yes.
Yeah.
So because it's municipal, yes, some are good, some are bad.
Okay, so it depends on that, how well run they
Right,
are.
right.
Got
This
it.
bill will certainly see some opposition from the League of Cities and Towns just because it deals with local control. I think it's something we can navigate and come to a good place on. It's all good.
Great, that's optimistic.
So I'll note this that there's continues to be discussion about geothermal energy in our state. We have really exciting opportunity to scale up the next generation of geothermal for electricity production. I think folks have probably heard at this point about Fervo, who is sort of leading the nation in a new type of drilling called enhanced geothermal. There's a number of other players in this market, uh, Rototherm, Sage, Ormat, Zanskar, among others, who are exploring opportunities to do geothermal for electricity resources. There is some question about how you treat the land versus the surface rights of a geothermal property, whether it is a mineral right or a surface right, and then also how you treat geothermal fluid for use as you drill and move the heat through a system through the loop of the system, and whether or not you need a water right. And I think that Senator Mike McKell has a bill, SB 21, that it's gone through its second session, and I think it's friendly towards geothermal energy development. It grants the Division of Water Rights some additional power to require disclosure over new geothermal wells and what their their water use, making sure there's bonding. So not a bill that's likely to affect all of you directly, but is really important, and I think is going to be the site of some interesting discussions early in the session on how we treat geothermal property and how that will play out within the state of Utah. The bill generally aligns with practices that are seen as best practices for treating geothermal resources that we've seen in the state of Texas and Colorado.
So, Josh, is this for utility scale
Yes. So
geothermal?
this is primarily aimed at geothermal for utility scale electricity production. There are some rules on the books for geothermal heat pump, and even geothermal heating systems or district heating systems that this would not. But this is primarily about you're buying a big piece of land to do drilling for utility scale systems like we're seeing in Southwest Utah. That's what this is focused on.
Got it. Thank you.
I'll just note that we like to keep people informed and up to date and tap into your expertise. So our legislative tracker, where we're tracking all the bills that we're seeing, is going to be up shortly on our website. Thank you, Tracy, utahcleanenergy.org. And then we also have our newsletter will come out weekly during the session, and we occasionally will ask folks to weigh in on bills. And again, your voice with your legislator makes a huge difference. We know that most of you can't trek up or even remote into legislative hearings, but that contact that you have with your legislator is super important. I'm thinking in particular that we're gonna need some help with our on-bill repayment study, and likely I think Representative Ward would appreciate some help with his solar bill. So look out for some notes on those.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Really appreciate your insights on all that legislation. Okay, next we're going to hand it over to, oh, I'm sorry. No, Josh, you're going to wrap up with some of your.
Why don't I'll just say that there's going to be an interesting discussion about the gas tax this year. And I'll Representative Cal Roberts, but with Speaker Mike Schultz, is trying to lower the state gas tax on customers while increasing it on the fees that other states will pay for fuel that's refined in Utah. And it's kind of creates it's going to create an interesting debate between a different set of players in the business community and the property tax, the income tax community, sales tax community. So I'd watch out for that. Keep an eye there.
Okay, and you're talking Enbridge natural gas going into homes?
No, this would be a petroleum, refining of petroleum by our refineries, Marathon, Chevron, Big West, all those folks.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks.
All right, and now handing off to Tom Moyer, who's going to walk us through the clean air legislation on the docket, and then also we're going to talk a little bit about Great Salt Lake and how the water level's doing and how it's impacting the state. Okay,
All right.
Tom.
I'll just start by way of introduction by saying that we are a fundamentally different kind of organization from Utah Clean Energy and the other NGOs. We are almost entirely volunteer driven. We have one paid employee in the state, and that's Bill Barron, our regional coordinator. The rest of us do this on a volunteer basis. So our role is talking to our legislators about bills of importance to us, and then pulling together this information to help them do that. So Utah Clean Energy is a great partner. And I would also point out Stewardship Utah, who Josh mentioned, and Grow the Flow. Stewardship Utah has an event tonight at Eggs in the City, an in-person event, their legislative preview. And then Grow the Flow has events tomorrow evening at the University of Utah and BYU and Utah State. We also this year have 6 legislative interns from the University of Utah and BYU. So they're going to be helping us track bills and talk to legislators, and they're going to be learning all about the legislative process. So, okay, here's clean air legislation. None of these bills have numbers or language yet. So this is all from talking to the sponsors or talking to other organizations who are working on them. Our legislative tracker has as much as we know about these bills right now, and it will get updated as the bills get language and actual information. So the first one is sponsored by Representative Tyler Clancy from Provo, and that's probably the most significant clean air bill of the, at least that we know about so far of the session. There was an attempt last year to run a bill phasing out pre-2010 heavy trucks. This one just adds a registration fee, so much milder bill. That one went nowhere. Both that was sponsored by a Republican, so is this one. So this is just going to increase the fee to operate those trucks, and that money will be used by the DAQ to fund clean air programs. Heavy trucks, vehicles are about half of the air pollution. On-road vehicles are about half of the air pollution along the Wasatch Front, and heavy trucks are about a third of the vehicle pollution. So
what qualifies as a heavy truck?
there's a weight threshold. I don't have it in front of me, but basically, light trucks are consumer vehicles, right? We divide consumer vehicles into passenger vehicles and light trucks. So a pickup truck is a light truck. Heavy duties is a delivery truck.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So this is not affecting consumer vehicles at all. Second and third bills are both run by Senator Stephanie Pitcher, Democrat. They do have Republican support. They're likely to have bipartisan co-sponsors. So they were both run last year and did not advance. So the hope is we can get them some more support this year. Second one targets vehicle owners who knowingly register their vehicle out of their home area in order to avoid emissions tests. So only counties that have emission air quality problems are required to do emissions tests, and so there's a significant practice of people with older vehicles deliberately registering them in other places, like if they have relatives for whose addresses they can use. The third one there focuses on electrifying lawn equipment and outdoor maintenance equipment used by state government only. That these days, most new lawn equipment you can buy is electric anyway, so it's time to get the older equipment phased out regardless. The fourth one, it's important context. We have done a lot of the big things that can be done on air quality, mostly having to do with cars. A lot of that's due to the federal government imposing emissions restrictions and then the older vehicles turning over. So this is now kind of a hunt for remaining sources of air emissions. And metal shredding and recycling facilities have emerged as one of the significant point sources. So this bill's being run by a Republican, Representative Sawyer, starting to just quantify data coming from those facilities. No action yet. The fifth one, you probably know of this from last 2 years. This has to do with US Magnesium, which was one of the larger point sources along the Wasatch Front. They are no longer operating. They filed for bankruptcy. So if they remain not operating, this bill won't matter. But there is a significant possibility that they could restructure their debt and resume operations or sell their operations to someone else. So at the moment, we have no standards whatsoever. The EPA does not regulate halogens and bromine. The state Division of Air Quality has developed recommendations for emissions limits for best practices, stemming out of those previous two pieces of legislation, but there's no implementation of that yet. So no details on this bill, but it would be something strengthening the implementation for that. And then the last one there is being run by a Democrat, Andrew Stoddard. There's been discussion of electrifying front runner trains fall into the off-road mobile category, which is about a third of the non-vehicle emissions. And the front runner trains are older diesel locomotives, and they are particularly bad. The the net effect of taking cars off the road is still good, but we can do quite a bit better by moving those to electric locomotives. That will be pricey. It's going to have a significant fiscal note attached to it. We'll see how much support there is for that because this is going to be a lean budget year. Next slide.
Get it not advanced, Tom.
Nope. Okay. Great Salt Lake. The Great Salt Lake Strike team last week put out an update to their report. And I will be showing, definitely steer you towards that for more information, but I'll be showing some of the information from their report, letting you know where we are on this. Go ahead, next slide. Okay. Elevation levels of the Great Salt Lake over time, for back to the last 25 years, where the two lines diverge, that's the north arm and the south arm, it's because we have most of the inflow to the lake goes to the south arm, and we have control over how much we allow to flow to the north arm. In desperate times, we shut off that flow with the berm and save the water in the south side of the lake to preserve the salinity level of the south side. Right now, the south side has an ecosystem. The north side has tipped over the salinity threshold and has no life at all. So goal is to preserve the ecosystem of the south side. We have had a couple good water years in a row, and that greatly dampened the enthusiasm in the legislature for preserving the lake. We almost lost the ecosystem of the lake of the South Arm in 2022. That's its historic low point. So those two good water years now have brought us back to 2021 levels. We are far from out of the woods, and this year is looking like a bad water year. We will drop again. So we believe there's going to be more enthusiasm this year for Great Salt Lake legislation. I didn't include the legend to this graph, but green on the left is healthy lake levels, healthy ecosystem. Pink is transitional. Brown below that is adverse effects, and dark brown is serious adverse effects. So we are now back in the serious adverse effects zone and dropping. Next slide. Okay, this is the water balance. So when that line is or the blue line is above zero, the lake is gaining water, and when it's below the dashed line, it's losing water. For most of its time since the year 2000, the lake has been losing elevation. You can see the last two good water years above the line, 2023 and 2024. Next slide. Okay, and here's salinity level. You can see of the South Arm, you can see in 2022, the line going above the salinity threshold. That is us almost losing the ecosystem of the lake. So we tipped, if we had stayed above that threshold for long, we would have lost it. There was a report from BYU scientists in 2022. They got a lot of flack for saying at the present rate of decline, the lake has 5 years left. That was felt to be hyperbolic. In a way, it was. They were taking a short, like from the years 2020 to 2022. If you projected that forward, yes, the lake would have been gone in 5 years. That, of course, didn't happen because we got good water years since then. But what was under discussed in that controversy was the fact that basically the lake was at the salinity threshold already in 2022. We had 0 years left to preserve it as we know it. Next slide. Okay, the big revision in this Great Salt Lake report versus previous ones is the amount of water depletion for municipalities, that's the orange line, the third line down, has been revised up. So municipalities are now 26% of total water depletions. Ag is the big one. Ag is about 65%, and the rest is a combination of mineral extraction, power generation, others. So the other key takeaway here is that these things are largely not changing. So the problem for the Great Salt Lake is not that water depletions are going up, it's that they're already too high. They're too high for a sustainable lake. So fundamental equation is if we take less inflow away from the lake will go up. So right now, we on this graph, 2,500 means 2.5 million acre feet a year of depletions. What we need to do is return somewhere between 250,000 and 1 million acre feet a year to the lake from the depletions that we're taking away from it in order to restore healthy lake levels. Okay, next slide. So that's between 10 and 40% of the water that we're currently consuming. One point to emphasize here, this is residential depletions. Your residential depletions that matter are outdoor water use. Your indoor water use is basically irrelevant. So it goes to water treatment plants and their outflow goes back into the lake. So your showers do not matter for the health of the lake. Your yard does. Other point here is that of all of the categories, residential water use is the one that is rising, and of course it rises with population. So, prior to this report, we used to kind of say residential water use just almost doesn't matter. It's an important symbol that we're all in it together. But with this revision, I think it's fair to say residential does matter. Next slide. Okay, so legislation coming up on water use. The big one, let's do the last one first, is budget requests. We don't know what they're going to be yet, but saving the Great Salt Lake is now basically just a question of money. It is a question of procuring the water from the people who own it. So there's two big levers there. You can either buy or lease water from the people who own the water rights, which is mostly farmers, or you can pay the farmers to get more water efficient in their practices and deliver the conserved water to the lake. There's not going to be a pipeline from the Pacific Ocean. There's not going to be nuclear power plants bringing up groundwater and desalinating it. None of those things are going to happen. We're going to live on the resources we have here, and we have to consume less and deliver more to the lake. So data centers are a big hot topic. This is being led by Jill Coford, a Republican, who is, I believe, going to spearhead the legislature's efforts on the lake this year, and it's absolutely wonderful to have that attention on it from her. The hype around data center water use is much greater than the reality, but electricity is a much bigger concern than water, but water is also not, water is a concern too, and especially when we have to go the other direction of less water use. So this is just going to track and quantify water use from data centers. Senator Stratton is going to run a bill on refining the definition of functional turf with the idea that we're going to put restrictions on non-functional turf. we already have on state property. The third one there, this is being run by a Republican this year. It's being run by Representative Okerlund. That would prohibit spray irrigation on non-functional turf in all new construction in the Great Salt Lake Basin. It was run last year by a Democrat and did not pass. We'll see if it has any better luck this year being run by a Republican. Next slide. All right, so that is a preview of our bill tracker. We've got on it what we know so far, and it'll continue to get updated as we get bill numbers and details on these things. And on the resources column, we will put one-pagers and articles for additional information about those bills as we get those.
Great. Thank you, Tom, very much. And we put the link right in the chat. And then we're going to kick off our Q&A session right now. And Tom, if you don't mind, I would like to give you the first question I have. So
sure.
When we talk about the data center water policy amendments, this is a topic that you hear throughout our conversations in Utah. It's the impact of data centers on water, and why are they being located in Utah when we don't have enough water? So I'm wondering, this is Bill saying, hey, let's figure out how much water they're using.
Right.
But do we have any idea if you were to put anticipated data center water usage to something like onto this graph on figure 12, like, do we know where it would rank?
Where would it fall? That I'll take that as homework for me. No, I haven't done those. Because we know, I don't know if they'll all come to fruition, but we know of proposed data centers and they're extremely large, at least large in terms of electricity use. And we're talking large, like doubling of the state's electricity use.
Right. And we don't know what percent water. But Josh, do you have any insight on that?
Most of data center water use is indirect, right? It is the water center used by the power plants that generate their electricity.
Oh, really?
Yes. Their actual water use for cooling is not zero, but it's not very big compared to the electricity water use required to supply them.
Josh, did you have any comment on that?
Oh, I think Tom covered it. I think the question is about where exactly the electricity is going to come from for most of our data centers is a big one. And they're certainly not going to be able to procure it in the near term through any sort of large scale nuclear facility or a coal facility, which are, and so I suspect that, I think that Representative Coford's bill and the efforts by the Department of Environmental Quality are really critical here just to get a handle on where things are headed.
Yeah. And also just to get accurate information to the public so we can focus on the important things.
Yeah.
Right. But no, I can tell you that
the type of new development that we have in the state is an important question for the public to ask. And it, and so that's, and it does look like there was some good Tribune reporting this week, like some of the newer data center developers have used much less water intensive technology. So the choices there matter, but it is important information for the public, and then a question that's important for us to ask is, what kind of development we're going to have in Utah? How are we going to play in that market, given other challenges and constraints?
Worth reiterating that what matters is consumed water. So just like your showers end up in the lake and they're not relevant for the lake level, data center water use is only relevant when it's consumed, when it's evaporated. The fact that they use it and return it to the source does not matter for the lake level.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
All right, Alyssa, and do you have some other Q&As for Josh and Tom?
Yes, we do have one question in the chat. This is from Evan, and he asked, will the commitment to hold a sustainable Olympics help move things like electrifying front-runner locomotives or possibly anything else? Tom or Josh, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, the Olympic date is marked in some of the graphs in the Great Salt Lake report. In other words, if we restore a quarter of a million acre feet a year, what will the lake level be? Lake level will be up 3 feet by the date of the Olympics. So yeah, that is clearly on people's minds and clearly driving perception of Utah.
Yep. I think I mean, it when it comes to, there's no reason and every reason for us to embrace the opportunities to electrify front runner and also to expand our transit network as part of this upcoming bid. It's just, this, why not? And it's a generational opportunity that we're gonna have to embrace. Am I seeing the urgency that I'd like to see today? No. But I think that it wasn't on the air quality and energy front. But I think it's very much in the minds of the folks leading the games bid, are the host communities, and it's only gonna ramp up. And I do think that the Great Salt Lake Charter Tom mentioned was signed last fall, does link the future health of the lake and its survival to the Olympic bid, and that will 100% help with with making the improvements and the policy changes we need to make happen.
Can we just talk a little bit about this Great Salt Lake in this year's water year? So what I've understood is because we had above average rain in October, right? We had a dry November, and then it came up again a little bit in December, that it saturated our soils. So it meant that it was good for snowpack, that it was going to run off and get into the reservoirs and rivers and into the lake. But I think the problem is that we don't have very good snowpack right now, right?
Right. Exactly.
Right. The West does not have good snow.
Right.
Yeah, and it's so both what I'm seeing is it's critical. What we're critical on our water supply going into the lake this year, and then also, I mean, the inversion level that's building in the Salt Lake right now with out of storm, a definite storm in sight, is also going to rattle people again on our air quality, because we haven't. I don't know if we've had a year as bad as what we'll probably see in this next 10-day stretch. So, bad news for our environment and health, kind of good news for more awareness.
Right. If we are going to have inversions, it is definitely preferable that they occur during the legislative session. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, this is the opportunity to direct our legislators' attention to these problems.
yeah. And I would also just say, like Tracy, for the lake, it's important to remember, given the report, that there's so much that humans, policymakers, decision makers can do to improve the health of the lake. And that's true. I think that's also true, and not as readily true, but true in the energy space as well. But I do think, that said, like, our snowpack is a reminder that rising temperatures and changing weather, changing snow, is going to be a factor that we need to manage in the future health of water in the lake generally. It is not the dominant factor today. We can control our destiny, but we need to act now.
Right.
And that's true also with respect to emissions. Anytime we can replace and reduce emissions in our human systems, that's going to make it easier for us to both mitigate and adapt to our climate challenges that are very much here today.
Right. Very good. All right. So I want to end this on a positive note on what we're seeing as far as progress in Utah. So if I'm looking at what we presented at the legislative preview last year, and maybe what some gains and what I'm seeing is some positive news, a couple things come to mind. One, Ben Abbott, from the professor down at BYU, is one of the leaders with the Great Salt Lake Rising, which is, and Tom and Josh, if you want to help me fill in the blanks here a little bit on, I forget what their goal is, but it's going into the private sector and other organizations to try to raise millions in
$200 million.
Yep.
How much?
100 million from Great Salt Lake and 100 million from Ducks Unlimited. And that, by the way, is a down payment on the Great Salt Lake. Is something like a $6 billion problem.
Yeah.
Right. One time. Or if you want to think about it as a $200 or $300 million a year problem.
All right, so we're getting new money from new sources and enthusiasm behind it, and then they're still working out exactly the best way to spend that, right?
So the majority of it's going to be spent on acquiring water rights, right, and delivering them to the lake. So there's other things like invasive species removal and water infrastructure upgrades, but acquiring water rights is the big one. Water leasing.
All right, great. Well, and the other momentum I see, and this is kind of global impact, is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is really stepping forward and helping to lead more in sustainability and environmental and getting their membership um, more educated and informed on our responsibility for Earth stewardship. And when I think Pope Francis as another religious leader has done a lot, but to also see locally the church step forward and start putting better sustainability initiatives in place for managing their properties and then instilling that stewardship into their memberships is also another really positive sign to me.
Absolutely. And the church also has been making donations of water shares to the lake.
Oh, they
Extreme,
continue to?
yeah, extremely important visible symbol for the rest of the state.
Mhm. That's great. And I see Alyssa's put the link in for an article called Caring for the Earth, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, if you're interested in looking at that. So Tom and Josh, any other closing comments?
I'll just say that, it's been a tough year in some ways federally for at the national level for clean energy, particularly solar and wind. At the same time, we're going to see some record clean energy installations here in the state of Utah. We've and some huge, one of the largest solar and storage development in the state, and then the first portion of the Furbo Enhanced Geothermal Project are supposed to come online later this year, among others. So the clean energy economy is going to continue to scale up as long we just need to make sure we get government out of the way.
Right.
Yep. And on the Great Salt Lake, I'll just chime in that our elected leaders are saying all the right words about solving the problem, not allowing this to fail. So our job is to hold them to it.
Excellent. Well, Tom and Josh, really appreciate your time today and all the information you were able to share with us. And I wish us well and our state legislature in helping to move the state forward.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for the time.
Thanks everyone for being here.